YouTube coders are lying to you. This is one of those rare instances where I actually did pre-watch and I liked the video so much I asked for permission to react to it, and I subscribed on the wrong account, so I'm going to subscribe on this one too. This video was phenomenal. I even asked for permission if I could do a reaction video, and Sid was cool with it. As a YouTube coder, obviously I have a lot of biases and I have a lot of fear that this is going to be about me, but I'll spoil slightly that it is not. In fact, Sid and I seem to have a lot of the same enemies, and I like to think people like Primogen and myself are doing a good job of swaying things a different direction. I would argue that my don't contribute to open source video might be a required pre-watch for this. It's a good video overall, but this should be able to stand on its own. Let's hear what Sid has to say about YouTube coders and how they are lying to you.
So I want to start this video off with a question that if your favorite YouTubers care about their subscribers and viewers so much, why don't they ever come out and say that, hey guys, there's this company XYZ and they are doing a mass hiring in this city, in this area, on this date. So you should send your resumes to this specified email address and you will have a chance at getting hired. See, they will never do it because that is not a good business decision, and they would rather sell you products and courses, and in some cases, fake hopes and dreams. And even in some cases, they may scare you into buying their products.
I'll go a step further, which is that a lot of these developers he's talking about, a lot of the YouTubers, I should say, that he's talking about, don't actually know about the real opportunities because most of them have never had real jobs and don't have connections in the industry. I have helped a handful of people in my audience find new opportunities, not because I mass blasted all the things I see out to them. Usually the opposite. Usually the companies I am working with, consulting with, talking to, or have been started by friends or old coworkers are hiring, and they're hiring for specific things. And once they start talking about it, I think, and I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense for these two people that I talked to from my community, or this person who helped with this thing. And if you're the kind of person who hangs out on my Twitch chat and brings really useful resources or stuff that you've built along with you, you quickly climb up that ranking in my head. And I love helping people find better opportunities based on their specific skills. We already have people in chat saying that I've helped them and others out. It's something that's important to me. When I see developers who are a good fit for opportunities, I love making the link in the combination. The only reason you wouldn't would be that you don't see them or you have a financial incentive to not do them. But if you just don't know about these opportunities because you don't talk to many other senior plus devs or you don't work with other companies in the industry much, you don't have anything to offer that side. Because there's two sides here. There's the side of the companies that are looking, and there's the side of the engineers who are looking for a job. You need to have a company with the role, and you need to have a relationship with that company in order to do something like what Sid is mentioning here. And most of the people he's about to talk to don't have that. We're 30 seconds in. He's going to cover a lot of this anyways.
Because that's how the YouTube coding space has become. And in this video, I hope to explain to you how YouTubers have figured out how to monetize their audience. And you might be a segment of their audience, whether you know it or not.
We'll be talking a lot about how YouTubers monetize, and I'm going to have some real spicy takes. So be ready for that one.
So the first thing that YouTubers want you to believe is that the IT industry is a meritocracy. And by meritocracy, they mean that they have established the fact that there is such a thing called top 1% of software developers, completely made up.
Mostly agree. I feel like the reason there's a top 1% is because there's a bottom 95% that's really far away. But I don't know how much that's 95% of devs versus 95% of the people in my comment section. Ugh. Yeah. Oh, we just got a really handy comment that's going to make me feel good, so I'm going to include it. I'm the CTO of my company, and one of my jobs is to stay on top of tech trends. Theo's videos are a shortcut to that, saving me time, and I generally trust his instincts. This is what I'm going for. I'm trying to be a good resource for people who are deep and nerdy about shit, because that's what I wanted myself. I made this whole channel because I wanted to fill that hole in my heart when COVID happened, and I no longer could just nerd out about tech at lunch anymore. I missed it so much that I taught myself how to be a YouTuber so I could fill that hole, and so I could better understand what creators needed because we were building creator tools at Ping. My desire to fill all of that together is what resulted in me having a YouTube channel. It wasn't my desire to make a bunch of money on YouTube. I never thought I would make any money here. The fact that I do is still incredible, and I owe all of you guys a ton for that. But my goal was never sell something or make up for the fact that I can't get a job in tech or be a YouTuber that happens to know enough about code to pretend and make videos about it. I started from the perspective of an engineer that was missing having these conversations, and that's why I made my channel. And the more I've looked around and seen what others were doing before I existed, the more it's broken my heart. And as much as I am not the biggest or the best or the most important tech YouTuber, the one thing I have done that I am very proud of is normalize this idea of well-produced senior plus technical content where most of my videos suck to watch if you've been coding for multiple years. And that's because that's what I wanted. And now there's a whole increasingly growing and massive niche that is experienced developers looking to hear about these things in their spare time. And that goal is what drove me here. And it's very different from what existed before. And I hate to say it this way, but a lot of what existed before was a bit of a money grab because it was people who couldn't or didn't want jobs in tech. Either they couldn't pass interviews or they couldn't find the opportunities, or they just got burnt out doing coding every day, looking to make a code salary without being a coder. And if you want to make that much money without being a coder, chances are other coders aren't going to respect it so much. So you're stuck going to a lower level, which is exactly what Sid's talking about here.
And only they are the software developers who get jobs in the IT industry. And let me be the one to tell you that that is an absolute lie. There is no such thing called the top 1% of software developers because there is no such metric to measure that.
Also a very fair point. The idea of the 10x dev is stupid because we can't really measure devs in a way that you can make these numbers.
See, the YouTubers always give generic advices to get the job in the industry. They always say things like, you should build projects, you should be out in public, you should create a LinkedIn network. Now, these are very generic advices, but they escape the fallback on their advice when they establish the fact that there is such a thing called top 1% of software developers.
Yep. I also hate that advice too. I have a whole video. Actually, I think I could find it by going here. Goals. This is one of my favorite videos I ever did. How do I become? It's called Your Goals Kinda Suck, because I find the goals most devs set suck. Things like, I'm going to learn JavaScript. That's not a good goal. That's a statement. You have no, like, when have you learned JavaScript? I'm still learning JavaScript. Have I learned JavaScript? Can I say that I've learned JavaScript? Or do I have to say that I'm learning JavaScript still? Because I learn new things about it every day. I learned something about it earlier today. I'm still learning JavaScript. So what does the goal, I will learn JavaScript, actually mean? Nothing. You have to set more realistic goals that you can understand when they are completed, which is a fundamentally different thing. And I'm already seeing chatters come in that are doing this all correctly. When I started following you, your content was mostly over my head. About a year later with 60 plus hours a week building projects, and I feel much more comfortable. This community is awesome and I love what you've built. This means so much, man. I love that you're hanging out here. I hope you're getting paid a lot more since you started too, because that's some serious growth. Like, that's my goal. I'm not going to lower my bar down to meet other people where they want to start learning from, because I'm making something entirely different here. I want to make content for people like me who are deep nerds about this shit and just want to see what's going on in the spaces. I just want to sit here and nerd out and be as honest and real about this shit as I can be. I'm not trying to sell you guys anything in particular. I'm trying to show you guys what has made me successful and what I like doing, learning, using, playing with, etc. That does mean I have to monetize in very specific ways, but as I said, those takes are spicy. They're coming up. One more thing I wanted to comment on here. You're wearing the same shirt? Maybe. Happens, okay? I like this shirt a lot. It's a good shirt, okay? The camera angle wasn't good, but the shirt was. You get the idea. Back to the video.
They are putting the blame on yourself. It's very subliminal. Speaking from your perspective, let's say that you took these advices and you implemented those in your life and you still didn't get the job. At that point, you will blame yourself and not the YouTuber, because they established the fact that there is such a thing called top 1% of software developers.
This is a point I hadn't really thought of with this idea of top 1%, which is that if this person's not him, but if a YouTuber's presented you this path to success, it's you learn JavaScript, then you make your portfolio, then you make an app using JavaScript, you put it on GitHub, you make a contribution, then you get a job. And if you don't, they don't say what it means if you don't, but they also say the top 1% of devs are the ones who get all these jobs and opportunities. If you follow their whole path to the end and a job isn't sitting there waiting for you, and you've heard that the top 1% are the only ones getting jobs, your assumption is now you failed as an engineer, you can't get a job, it's all over. And your last hope is the course that they just happen to be selling to help you get through that hump. Ugh, this makes me feel so disgusted.
And you will just think to yourself that maybe you don't belong in that segment. So that is an absolute sinister way of advertising and just farming views on YouTube.
I know I keep pausing, we're only 2 minutes in, but I have to give a huge shout out to Sid for having the balls to stand up and say this. I don't even have the balls to do it on my own. I'm relying on his video so that you guys can see two people agreeing rather than me just saying this. Because if I just said this, I would make so many enemies. And I already have. A lot of the old heads from the OG tech and JavaScript YouTube days fucking hate my guts because I stand for the thing that they hate, which is somebody who knows how YouTube works and somebody who knows how code works and has real experience. Most of them are one, and it's usually the YouTube side. So me knowing YouTube as well, if not better, and knowing code really well has terrified them. And they do not like me. They really do not like me. Whereas a lot of this new crop of specifically like the newer Indian YouTubers, they fully get it. And they've been fucking awesome to work with and chat with. And they're fighting this battle real hard. And they're willing to come out, put their face on it, put their name on it, and say something as bold as YouTube coders are lying to you. That takes balls, and I have massive respect for it. So much so that I'm sitting here making a reaction video, which I hate doing because I want to double down on his message and take the opportunity to say it in a way that I'm less scared to say it. He has made me less fearful of doing this, and I owe him immensely for it.
See, the fact that these YouTubers always say that if you do DSA, if you study the most, if you have the highest score in your exams, then you will definitely land the job is not true. In an interview room, when somebody is sitting next to you and they have less experience than you and less knowledgeable than you, they may be more hireable in the eyes of the manager because the manager may think that this guy who is less experienced than you, the candidate, they may cost less to the company and they can be trained on the job later so they can have the knowledge and they can be performant on the job.
Or a thing that he didn't mention here, he might in a minute, I don't actually remember, I watched this a while ago. The manager might just know the other person. Like if it's a friend, or if like a friend of theirs referred a candidate, even if that candidate's worse than you, if there's an existing connection, any existing reason for trust to exist here, they're going to lean in that direction. And the ability to build trust will always come on top of any ability to build services and software. If you've built trust with a company or a person at that company, that's going to go so much further than any niceties you can add to your portfolio. We're getting more super kind messages in chat. I'm going to keep getting sidetracked by chat over this. Gabriel, who if you guys don't know is my like lead researcher and reviewer. He's the guy who, when I have ideas for videos, goes to get all the resources. He reviews the videos when they're done being edited, helps a ton with running the channel. This community is the first place I felt like I was surrounded by way smarter people, and learning from them just by hanging out has been amazing. After almost 2 years of lurking, it's that I feel like I'm contributing back to the community. Yes, you're contributing back more than almost anyone could imagine, Gabriel. You're fucking killing it, and it's great to have you here. Also, yes, I'm homies with Benawad. Great dude. Love him so much. Swear to God, before I met Theo, I was so overwhelmed with what technologies to learn. But when I watched my first Theo video on goal setting, my whole career changed, and I started learning new technologies the right way. I no longer had shiny object syndrome and shit like that. I swear I'll say it again. Thank you, Theo. Always good to see you here, Timmy. Your growth has been awesome to watch too. And again, that's why I'm doing this way. I love talking about new tech and new fun things, never because I think everyone should go adopt all this new shit or fall behind. I have a very spicy take that probably deserves a video of its own. I think being late to things is significantly better overall. Being early to a new solution screws you as much as it helps you. My favorite analogy to give here is mobile. Imagine you know the future is mobile apps and you are on not a fancy iPhone like this, but you're on one of the old feature phones like the good old days with the Razr that ran crappy Java apps. So you're a big fan of things like the T-Mobile Sidekick and the crazy apps you can run on your Razr and shit like that. Once this phone came out, the writing was on the wall. It was pretty clear the future of how people interface with software isn't going to be using a laptop constantly. It's going to be these mobile devices you can hold in your hand. And you know that, and you're a developer. So you decide you're going to do the obvious smart thing, and you're going to go all in on building apps for phones. So you become the best T-Mobile Sidekick dev that ever lived. You know the Java virtual layer that is used for these crappy phones and their terrible ports of like PlayStation games better than anyone in the world. And then the iPhone comes out. How much better off are you, the wizard Sidekick dev, than a person who's never written mobile code ever before, the year or two after the App Store happened? I think the person who's starting years later, after the App Store's already been out for a few years, is better off than the person who spent years on the Sidekick first, because the dev who put all their time into learning this platform and this way of building now has their brain effectively rotted by the wrong way of doing things. And their willingness to try the right thing once it's been discovered and established is much lower. And the behaviors and patterns and things they have learned have to be unlearned before they can learn the right thing. So by jumping in early on smartphone development and by jumping in early on mobile app dev, you're worse off than somebody who got to it when the iPhone dropped or even years later. This is why I push so hard against this idea that you have to learn early or you'll fall behind. There are very, very few examples of somebody being early to something and benefiting greatly from it. There are infinitely more examples of somebody getting to something late and being just fine. I'm mostly known as a React developer. I wrote my first line of React code in 2018 and barely wrote it then. I got more into it around 2019 when we were going all in on hooks and shit. I was 5 to 6 years late to React, and I'm still one of the most influential people in the React community. That's because I got into it when it made sense for me to get into it, when I had seen how established it was, where it was going, and my company was moving over to it. Learning early is a fun thing to do, but don't do it because you're scared of being left behind. The only way you get left behind is if you learn the wrong thing early and then get stuck. If you just learn the thing once it's established, you're fucking fine. You're absolutely fine. I said this back when Dino happened. I said this when Solid happened. I'm saying this when server components happen. The difference being server components are part of React, so they're almost certainly going to end up somewhere useful. Don't feel like you have to be early to shit. It only can hurt in most cases. So yeah, important points. Back to the video. We're over probably 15 minutes into my video here, and we're 2.5 in here. Let's catch up.
Overpicking you, who is most likely the most qualified person for the job. See, the IT industry is very unfair, just like the rest of the world is. But YouTubers don't want you to believe in that fact. They want to establish this thing called top 1% of software developers because it makes you the most marketable, advertisable segment of people that they can sell their products and courses to.
Another important point. If you make people feel like they're this top 1%, it's much easier to sell them things.
See, I will tell you one thing. Why do you see so much beginner courses peddled around on the YouTube space and not intermediate course or advanced courses? Because the YouTubers know that this is not a good business decision to target such a niche market segment. The number of students in colleges who are in engineering degree or let's say Bachelor of Computer Science or Master of Science degree is way higher than the number of people who are in the intermediate and advanced software engineering market segment.
This is another very real point that I was concerned about going in. I was so scared when I started blowing up that I would hit a cap real early unless I made my videos more interesting to earlier stage devs. And you know what my response to that was? Nothing. I didn't do jack shit. I just kept doing things the exact way I was and didn't think twice about it. And it turns out there was a ton of these senior plus devs that just had judged YouTube as a place for noobs and hadn't went in because there wasn't content for them yet. Turns out there's a lot of people. In my last 28 days, which was a bit of a downswing than the one before, we still had 700,000 people watch one of my videos. In the month before, in April, 850K. And I think March was one of my biggest months. Yeah, 947,000 people, almost 1 million people watched one of my videos in March. That's a lot of developers. That's a lot of fucking developers that aren't just learning how to code. These are people who have coded long enough to sit through one of my videos, and almost 600,000 of them came back for more. There are so many senior devs, more so than I ever would have thought. There are obviously at any given time more people learning looking for videos than people who have already learned and are looking for videos. But every year, there's only so many devs going to school. And once they graduate, they're now more experienced. And there's more people who have graduated with CS degrees than there are people currently getting CS degrees. So I guess this is the one point I don't fully agree with, where like it's easier to sell things to the devs who don't have degrees yet. But there are more devs that have finished their degree than there are devs who are finishing their degree, just by basic arithmetic. The belief was that we couldn't get those people to watch YouTube, but we've since learned that's absolutely the case.
That is why they target college students or school students or active job seekers who are freshers in the IT market, because they are the ones that they can sell most of their products to. In our case, courses. Now, as Indians, we are anxious people. We always worry about our future. And these YouTubers bank on this fact that you are scared about your future, about...
This I totally agree with, and it makes me feel sick. The fact that there are people selling something, anything even, to early career developers that they buy out of fear frustrates me to no fucking end. I would never, ever want to use my position to make people scared of something, especially in this field. The thought of scaring them into buying my thing? Ugh, no. I'm so happy he's calling this out.
Being replaced by AI or Devin,
That's another one. The AI is going to replace us shit. Ugh, so tired of that.
So it makes you the most marketable segment of people that these YouTubers can target and can make the most revenue.
I saw another chat I have to call out. I want to join the parade. I've been watching Theo videos for almost a year now, and since then, I started to understand front end and even thinking about speaking to other people or learning English in the first place. This is another one of those that I love. I don't talk about enough. I love that people use my videos to learn English. I'm sure that it sucks because I don't speak English very well, but I speak it well enough, and I speak it like a programmer. And if watching my videos means you can pause it, rewind, and then look up the things I say to get more familiar with how these phrases are used when talking about higher level programming stuff, that is fucking awesome. I love that. It was not a design goal or an intention of me making this channel ever. When I look at the numbers of which countries watch my videos, it's clear that a lot of people are doing this and are learning English through my stuff. I think that is awesome. And I have massive props and shouting out to all of you guys because you're learning two things at once. You're learning whatever I'm talking about and you're learning how I'm talking in the first place. That makes it more than twice as hard. So for y'all to push through it, that's so fucking cool. I love that. Yeah. Because of this, I know much more than my classmates. And though it means I can't talk about programming with my peers, I still love the community that you and Prime built. Oh, you touched on my... Oh. How did you just hit so many nails on the head with this? I like you a lot, Diablo Project. Thank you for dropping this. This is another one of those things that I didn't realize when I made my channel. Do I still have the analytics up? I do. If we look at the age demographics on my channel, you'll see most are 25 plus. Roughly 75% in March, which is when this is for, which is one of my biggest months ever, or 25 plus. 75% are 25 plus. 24.5% are 18 to 24. 0.6% are under 18. The people in this section, but especially the ones here, are fucking gods. Because for a person under 18 to watch my stuff and keep up with it, there's only one reason you would put yourself through that. Because my content is really hard to digest if you don't have years of experience writing code. The only reason you would push through it is something you touched on here. I can't talk about programming with my peers. This is a sentiment that breaks my heart. I was really lucky when I was in school that when I was a freshman in high school, there was a senior class that was really nerdy about Linux and coding and all of these things. And I got to talk with them constantly about the stuff. They graduated, I became a sophomore, then a junior, then a senior. And sure, I didn't have people around me that were as deep as I was, but I still had the connections I had made my freshman year with those really talented people. And then I got deep into the Minecraft server hosting world and had more and more experienced people to talk to every day. I never had that experience of feeling starved of other experienced devs to talk to. At least I didn't when I was learning, and I certainly didn't when I went to college, and I certainly didn't when I went to my first job at Twitch where everybody was a fucking god at the time. I learned so much and was constantly surrounded with people who were smarter than me that I could learn from and have these conversations with. And then, as I mentioned before, COVID happened and that was taken from me. I no longer got to talk about programming with my peers because we were just on Slack together. And that broke my fucking heart. I missed it so much that I made a company. I joined Y Combinator, none of which satisfied that need in me. And then I started YouTubing, which did satisfy the need. And here we all are now. So the reason this channel exists is the reason you can't talk with your peers anymore. But that's not my channel that got you there. That's your desire to be there. If my channel wasn't there for you, Diablo, you would have gotten here anyways. You would have found another place, be it a forum, be it a GitHub project, be it some person you met on Twitter. You would have found somebody to let you go this fast because you're moving the speed you want to move at. And the painful part that happens to so many people is once they've accelerated past their peers, they don't have anybody to talk about this stuff with. They don't have anybody to compare themselves against. They're just out and alone. And if they don't know anybody who programs for a living or has gone through all of this stuff already, that's an incredibly lonely feeling. And that's what I've learned about that number in my charts. This small crew here, this is the Nexels of the world, the person who made Create 3 app originally. He had accelerated so far past his peers that the gap of where he was experience-wise and where I was, as intimidating as it was, he pushed straight through it because the thing that was on the other side was the ability to talk about this shit again. And that's what he wanted. And he wanted it so badly, he dealt with how hard my content was to consume to get there. Be it because I talk really fast in English or because the topics I talk about are really high level and hard to understand unless you've been in it for a while. The people who push through that are doing it largely because they feel alone. And I have so much respect for them for that. And I am so lucky to get to be one of the places, one of the communities where that can happen. It's just awesome. And I know it feels bad to accelerate past your peers and not really being able to interact with them anymore. But I really hope hanging out in this chat, leaving comments on this shit and just being part of this community has helped fill some of that gap some amount. I still love the community that you and Prime built, and now finishing school, you already have a job, and us two are the only ones who made you better. No, we didn't make you better. This is the only thing I disagree with here. You made you better. You were looking for this shit. Prime and I happened to be the places you landed because we're the only two that are doing this right now. But more and more of us are going to do this over time. This is just how it goes. Okay, you are seeing the 97% male thing. My YouTube viewership across 2 channels is 99.7% male. And Bash Bunny's a chick. So I actually have a significantly better gender ratio. She even called out here. Yeah, mine's a lot better. It's sad that the women in engineering don't watch as much YouTube, but we're working on it. And I have slowly climbed there too. This number when I started was like 0.6%, and we're up to 2+. Like, we're making progress, and I'm proud of it. I'm real proud. But it sucks that this number is this wide of a gap. There's a lot of reasons for it. None of those reasons are what we're talking about today, but it is something worth considering. Yeah. Also, Eva, legendary hacker hanging out here, also hasn't even turned 18 yet. So there's plenty of these legends lurking around that just need somewhere to let this knowledge out, or otherwise they feel like they're going insane. And as someone who felt that during the beginning of COVID, so much sympathy. God, this video's gonna be like 2 fucking hours, Jesus.
So this is something that you should be aware of when you are on the YouTube coding space, because it's very easy to fall into this trap and buy the course on this promise that you will get that mang job, you will get that 50 LPA job, but it's not gonna happen for you. And again, they escape the fallback very easily when they establish the fact that it's all dependent on luck. Take a look at this screenshot from her.
Oh, that's so dirty. Yes, luck plays a role, but being able to fall back on that when your strats don't work.
Singh's video where he's regretting some of the things that he didn't do. And at the end, he very conveniently places the luck factor in it. No disrespect to Harkirat Singh. I'm just...
yeah, the Harkirat's one of the best of what I'm talking about here too.
Making a point. The next thing that YouTubers talk about is money, because of course, everything is about money, according to Neeraj Walia.
It seems like he also removed somebody's videos from it. That's cool too, especially if like it's a person who probably shouldn't have been in it before and like apologized to him and owned it and made changes. I like that he's going back and censoring those types of things. That's a really good sign to me that he's putting the work in to make sure his stuff is honest and only calling out the right people. And if I ever call somebody out and it's unfair, you're probably not the type of person who's watching this video, but if you are, my DMs are open on Twitter especially. If I ever fuck something up, just DM me. I will see it and I will do my best.
Anyway, this is an unfortunate reality, but if you put a magical number like 50 LPA or $10,000 a month on the thumbnail on a YouTube video, it will get views. Unfortunately.
Yep. Mine, that won't happen, funny enough, because I don't do this type of content, so it won't hit my audience. And since my audience won't watch it, because none of you guys would click on any of these videos. Like, who here is going to click 3 extremely easy ways to make money online 2024, 0 investment? None of y'all are going to click that. You're here to talk about nerdy code shit, not this stuff. So this wouldn't work for me because of the audience I've built. But if you're just desperate to get clicks and you did one tutorial for beginners, you could lean further that way and continue getting views that way. And as soon as you branch off of it, you stop getting views, then you feel bad, then the spiral happens.
Fortunately, this is the landscape of YouTube coding space right now, where any YouTuber, when they see that they are running out of topics to talk about or they are not getting enough views, they will just put a money factor into their thumbnail, because obviously everybody likes money. So they will get views from potential job seekers, active job seekers, or even experienced software developers, or even the non-tech people, because obviously they would like a perspective on the software engineering industry to see.
I just came up with a whole new framing of this in my head. All YouTube success comes from desperation. All of it. It's a matter of where is that desperation coming from? Is that desperation coming from you, desperate to create and make this specific thing? Or is that desperation coming from viewers desperately looking for the thing that you happen to be the one creating? I lean into the prior for that. I was so desperate to have these communities and have these conversations and talk about these things that I ended up with a YouTube channel as a result. And I do this because I want to talk about these things. To this day, if I make a video, I make the thumbnail and title, I put it on the channel, and then I look at it, and I honestly say to myself, I would not have clicked this video. It does not go out. Every video I've ever published, I would have clicked on and watched. Whereas these people that he's referring to, They're not making videos out of their own strong desire or need to talk about those things. They're doing it based on their perceived strong desires and desperation from the potential viewers of the video. I am playing into my own desperation to make these conversations happen. These creators are playing into the desperation of job hunters, and that's why they can monetize that way too. Speaking of which, you have to get into how I monetize later. I know I've been baiting that spicy take for a bit, but we'll get to it.
See how much money people make. And even in those videos, they say very generic advice like build projects, learn DSA, do programming in public, or create a LinkedIn network. And again, the top 1% comes into play, which I just explained some time ago. In my opinion, it is a very cheap perspective, and it teaches people that software engineering is all about making money and not about the passion of writing good software and wanting to create good solutions for the industry.
I try to not talk about any of those things. I had one video where it was like programming is just a job, that type of thing, but it's just not the thing I care to talk about. Like, most of us are here because we like programming. I can just presume that. I don't have to have a conversation about how to maximize your financial return from code, or coding for passion versus coding for money, because I don't care about these convos, because the people I'm talking to are passionate about code. I don't have to filter that out. I don't have to have that conversation. We just talk about the shit. None of y'all would be here if you weren't at least a little bit passionate about code. Who knows? We're probably 30 plus minutes into this goddamn video and you're still hanging out. You care. You care some amount. Do you want to make money too? Sure, we all do. But you care enough to hang out through this, which most wouldn't.
And results in software engineers joining the industry who don't have enough knowledge with them to write good code, and they end up leaving behind a bunch of spaghetti monolith architecture that some poor intern has to maintain. So I dislike this fact that YouTubers always peddle this fact that how to get more money from your job.
Especially with the current economy, yeah. Even my own advice for getting a new job barely works anymore, which sucks. My old advice was every 6 months do an interview so you can roughly know what your market worth is. I still think you should do that, but the answers are going to be more disappointing than they used to be.
Or how to earn this much amount of money, like 50 LPA, 75 LPA, or $10,000 a month. This is a very cheap perspective to have, really. And the brutal reality of it is, you are not going to make this amount of money. Because if these videos have, let's say, 500,000 views, do you really think that all 500,000 people are making this type of money?
I like to pretend, but they're not. Especially like even within my audience, which is much more senior. I've done polls. I am regularly surprised by the average income of my audience. It's lower than I would have expected. Like, I've dropped the number. I'll drop it again. I was making total comp between my stock, which was Amazon stock, plus my actual dollar salary at Twitch, around $480K total a year when I left, which sounds suicidal to leave that. And it was very stupid of me to leave that. But at the same time, my desperation to do different things was so strong that here we are. Yeah, the fact that there's a lot of devs who are better than me making under 100K a year hurts me, but it's reality.
It's just view farming. It's just clickbaiting on the highest degree. And again, if this does not work out for you, you will end up blaming yourself, not the YouTuber. And one thing that these YouTubers conveniently leave out is that the industry is suffering from a skill gap. There are so many software engineers, but not so many skilled software engineers. If you take a look at articles or statistics, you will find out that some companies, or most of the companies, are suffering from this skill problem where they are getting enough software developers to hire from, but they are not getting enough skilled software developers to hire from.
When you hire an earlier career developer, you're not usually just hiring them for the work they can do right then. You're hiring them partially as an investment, hoping that they'll continue to skill up and get better, both overall as a developer, but also at the specific things that you use and do and deal with. That balance sucks to maintain. It's hard. As such, I find that a lot of companies get surprised that the junior devs they hired take so much effort to hire up and like skill up. And as a result, they often just want to not take the risk and hire a more experienced developer. So where do we find those developers? Because if another company skilled someone up from junior to senior, and now they're a senior dev who is making a lot of money at that company, has a lot of friends at that company, and has a lot of skills specific to that company, and I'm a different company using different tech without much overlap, how do I convince that person to move over? It's really hard to do, especially now that the market's gone as crazy as it has. Hiring skilled workers in tech is a lot harder than hiring a fresh, like new grad or someone out of a boot camp. but the likelihood that bootcamp grad ends up skilling up to the point where they're particularly useful and worth the money you pay. Because like realistically, a junior eng is 1/4 as useful as a senior eng, and they make more than half as much money. It's a terrible investment if you can find the senior engineers. And once you hire that junior, the senior becomes less productive for some, if not large amounts of time, as they skill up that junior and do their code reviews and make sure everything's done in a way that they're happy with. It's a tough catch-22 in a lot of ways, and I see a lot of companies struggling with it to this day. So it's a very fair point to bring up that a lot of employees are worried that they're falling behind. And at the same time, a lot of companies are struggling to find these more experienced people. All fair points.
Most of the companies are suffering from this skill problem where they are getting enough software developers to hire from, but they are not getting enough skilled software developers to hire from. So they don't want you to believe in this. They don't want to talk about it. They want you to buy their course and just give them your money and just, blame yourself when it doesn't work out. The next,
I got in a fight. I don't want to call out the person in particular because it really annoyed me, and I'll just be like super mean about it. But there's another somewhat prominent tech creator, bigger on Twitter than on here, who, and it's not Daniel Thompson. I fucking love Daniel Thompson. D Thompson Dev is great. Everything he says, like if you're an early stage dev that somehow made it this far in the video looking for help finding your first job, D Thompson Dev, good person to follow. Keep an eye on him. He gives really good advice here. This is somebody else. I don't want to call him up by name. Just somebody who I was really frustrated with because they still insist that making any random open source contribution is still the best way to get a job. Specifically, if you're trying to get an overseas high paying tech job, you got to find a random GitHub repo that'll merge your pull requests. And I was so frustrated. We had a long back and forth, and his conclusion was, well, it works. So if your argument against it is just that like it burdens open source maintainers, who cares? Just burden them more. I'm giving the advice for what works. It doesn't work, though. He would fixate on random points because he just wanted to sell the advice. He didn't want to think about the advice. He just wanted to sell it. And the quickest mental gymnastics he could do to saying, well, it works, so I'm going to keep selling it, is what he would do. He had no interest in considering the fact that what he was doing doesn't work and it harms the open source community. Again, I said, go watch the open source, or don't do the open source video. This is why I said that. Yeah, the whole contribute to open source and buy my course and you'll definitely get a job, that stuff makes you want to die.
next thing that these YouTubers do is trend chasing. And that is one of the most saddest realities of YouTube coding space right now.
I'll take a bit of an L here. I definitely like talking about and chasing the trends. The reality is I did that before YouTube and I'll do it after YouTube. I love trying out new solutions and playing with new things, but I am very realistic about it to the best of my ability. And I try to go out of my way to say this thing is new and early and you don't need to learn it. And I have a bunch of content where I emphasize how unimportant it is to learn new things. I just like talking about them because they're interesting. And when I make a video about it, it means you can spend 20-ish minutes learning about it instead of hours researching it to figure out if you should learn it or not. I like that. I like the way I chase trends, but I absolutely agree that the overall trend chasing, the driving the fear of the AI shit, all of that sucks. I didn't talk about my take on the money thing. I'm trying to remember, do I get an opportunity to do that later on? I don't. So we're going to go back a little bit so I can go on my little rant about making money first, and then we'll go on the much longer rants about trend chasing. Okay, Theo intermission. I'm going to have an honest moment with y'all because I haven't found a good place to stick this honest moment in any of my previous content, and I've wanted to talk about this for a while. I need to talk about sponsors. Obviously, this video is not sponsored. This is just me venting a bit. I'm talking about this because I went insanely out of my way to find some method to monetize this channel that didn't feel disgusting and like just taking advantage of a bunch of you guys for watching my videos. I really didn't like the idea of people paying for access to you to convince you guys of something that isn't true. I am incredibly lucky that we make all of our money from 3 fair sources. The first is subscriber support, be it people subscribing for $5 a month on Twitch, joining as a member on YouTube, or joining via Patreon, stuff like that. Total there, I make about 1/8 of the money on the channel. Then I have ad revenue, which it comes from YouTube and it comes from Twitch a bit too. Twitch ad rev, I'm lucky to make $100 a month. YouTube ad rev can get a little over 7K, which sounds great, except for the fact that I pay my editor roughly the same amount of money, which means there's a huge delta left for making some amount of money here, especially when you consider I was making $500,000 a year before. I need to justify the time I put into this stuff. We put out a video every day. We have tutorials that are hours long and take weeks to prepare. I can only justify that if we make a little bit more money that I can use to make ends meet, to cover the cool things that we do and talk about, cover travel for events, and support the community and the awesome people doing cool shit themselves. The only way I can do that is making money through my third source, which is sponsors. I didn't want to sell my soul. I refused to take sponsorships from products I wouldn't use. Early on, I broke that a little bit, and I've since severed some big relationships in my life in order to get away from that. I have taken huge financial hits, personal hits, and business hits because I refuse to take sponsorships from products I don't use anymore. It just doesn't happen. I talk about the shit that I use, that I'm interested in, and that I want to share with others. And my rule with all the companies I work with now is that I can, do, and will continue to ship using the products that they built. I've had so many opportunities to take way bigger, way better deals with more flexibility for myself that I chose to not take because the product wasn't as good. The reason that companies like Vercel sponsor me is because I'll take a worse deal if it means I can talk about the thing I actually use, which is Vercel. I would hate to take a sponsorship from a company I'm not actually using the product of and I don't actually recommend the product of, and then go use something else privately. It's not like I'm sitting here talking about Vercel and then quietly using AWS for my startup. We do use AWS for a lot of our startup and I'm loud about it, but we use Vercel for even more of it. I recommend the things I use. I get sponsorships from those things because it's the only fair way to make all of this work. And those relationships with those companies were hard to form. I had to be very real with them, which is, we're going to form this relationship. I'm going to not use your competitors in videos, but you have no creative control over what I do or what I say, much less how I say it. I do not let companies censor me. I let companies sponsor me so that we can talk about the things I actually recommend and not have to spend a bunch of time shilling random bullshit that I don't actually use. Speaking of which, if you ever see a NordVPN ad on this channel, I do actually use Nord. That's an honest one too. But the point I'm trying to make here is that I have taken hilarious financial hits in the orders of magnitude of millions of dollars a year because I want to share the things I believe in. I built a different way to do sponsorships. And my benefit for that, my reward for putting all of this time in, is that I make 1/10 as much money. It's actually that, if not less. And I get more shit than almost anybody else does for having sponsors, even though my sponsors are the products I actually use. So that's how I monetize. That's why I don't have to charge you guys for my tutorials because I got a big company to pay for it instead. I think that's awesome. Taking money from companies and using that to fund the channel so I can give the best possible content to y'all. I went out of my way to find and craft this method of advertisement because I wanted to be able to do videos about the things I actually like and recommend, not videos about whatever makes me the most money. And it is so incredibly fucking frustrating that this is used against me instead of understanding what I'm here to do. But the alternative to what I'm doing here isn't I'm an honest YouTuber making better videos. The alternative to what I'm doing here is I'm selling y'all fucking courses for bullshit. The only way this is financially viable is through what I'm doing here. And if you don't like that, then you better be contributing a lot of money to my Patreon because that's the only alternative. And right now, that alternative is less than 1/8 of my monthly income. It wouldn't be able to pay for 3 videos a month. And if you want me to go down to 3 videos a month so that I can not have a Vercel logo on things quite as often, feel free to do it. But the harsh reality is that right now, Vercel sponsors me so I don't have to go explore everything Netlify does. And I think that's great because I don't use Netlify. Anyways, small rant because I figured out monetization a different way. And despite that, I get more shit than any of the people he's talking about, which I think is stupid. Anyways, back to the video.
From. So but they don't want you to believe in this, your
Let's
money
get to the
trend chasing.
trend chasing.
And that is one of the most saddest realities of YouTube coding space right now. When ChatGPT was released, almost every YouTuber jumped in and they started fear mongering among the software development community that we are going to get replaced by AI. Tech with Tim and Fireship, these two are the biggest culprits of this fear mongering because they have a massive.
I'll say I half agree with Fireship here. My issue here is I find Fireship stuff to be very sarcastic, but if you don't have enough experience with him and with people like him to identify the sarcasm, it's easy to actually receive that as fear. So I agree in the sense that the damage is real, but the intent isn't necessarily there. And I think like Fireship could do a bit more to make it clear he's being sarcastic. But the harsh reality is that people see these videos and they get scared.
Segment of audience, and they created so many videos on this. Tech with Tim, however, created a short where he talked about how he was wrong. But anyway, YouTubers like us, we have no accountability on our part. When we create videos about something just to bank the most clicks and the click-through rate and engagement on our videos, we don't think about the fact that whatever we talk about in the video will stay in the viewer's head for a long time.
That is such an important and fair point, and it's something I only learned recently, and I've been more and more careful about it. Every little thing I say in one of my videos has to be with the assumption that the exact sentence I just said might be the only thing you hear from me or that stays in your head for a long time. And if I make a follow-up video in the future where I change my mind and I'm even public about it, which I am, I contradict myself more than anybody else calls me out. The person who's most likely to say I was wrong about something is me. And I love doing that because I love being wrong and learning from it. But it doesn't matter if the thing I said that was wrong gets stuck in your head and then you never see the thing where I correct it later on. If it's a small little thing like I was wrong about what an attribute does on HTML elements, whatever, I don't give a fuck. But if it's like overall trends and directions about things where I say this technology is going to be a big deal and then it isn't, and you put a lot of time and effort in because you were convinced it was going to be a big deal, mess, absolute mess. And I do my best to avoid that, and I'm putting even more effort into it lately.
Think about the fact that whatever we talk about in the video will stay in the viewer's head for a long time. Let's say a big YouTuber like Tech with Tim creates a video where he's freaking out about AI, and 6 months later he creates another video where he admits that he was wrong. Do you see that the damage is done already? In those 6 months that the video was up, so many guys, so many people watched it, and now they are scared. You can't undo the scare in people's minds.
That was so good. Even just like the timing of the pause and the honesty here. This was the moment where I left the comment. I hadn't even finished the video when I was watching it. In this moment, I unfull screened. My phone was like on a table somewhere, and I like rushed to it, paused, unfull screened, scrolled down, and said, "This video is fucking awesome. Can I please do some form of content about it?" So well put. You cannot undo the fear. Even if you can ease the fear, the impact that moment had on them is forever.
So there is a lack of accountability on YouTubers' end when they try to chase trends and they just blurt out their opinions out in the YouTube space, because it affects real people. And I think we should have a little responsibility on our side, and we should do our own research before we decide to make a video about anything. So the next thing that these YouTubers do is bash PHP.
I'll take another L here. I love bashing PHP, but if you want to get a job fast, it's fine.
Because it is the cool thing to do. If you are a YouTuber and you didn't bash PHP, are you even a YouTuber?
Have I managed to not bash PHP in a video? I don't think I have. I've probably mentioned it in a video at some point. Yeah, has web dev gotten worse? I don't have any just straight up PHP bad videos. Holy shit. I'm coming out clean. I actually thought I might have to take the L there, but no, I don't do those types of things very often unless I'm like really fucking frustrated. But as much as I love to shit on PHP, and believe me, I love making fun of PHP so much, I don't have a reason to. For the most part, the PHP community stays in their world and does their thing. And I'm totally fine with that. PHP is actually a great solution to a decent number of problems. And having something like Laravel with so much shit built in is cool. I'm happy for them. If they want to go live in their all-in-one provided framework solution that only recently became performant enough to not die under the load of 10 users on a $10 a month server, awesome. Good for them. They made something that's pretty solid and they can move pretty fast. I am more than happy for them. I'm not going to sit here and make fun of them endlessly, even if I hate using the language and all the weird shit inside of it.
Take a look at this thumbnail. There's this guy named Stefan Mischuk, and it seems like he has a problem with Laravel, with how MNCs don't use it. And saying that Laravel or PHP is not a good tool to create scalable applications, it's like saying that this nail cutter is not a good nail cutter because I can't use this on a rhinoceros.
Half agree with this analogy. I think it's important to understand that a lot of the new solutions we use instead of something like Laravel do scale much better, and that's a huge part of why the industry has moved away from them. But if you already know PHP, or you're learning PHP, or you're looking for a job and there's opportunities around you that are maintaining old PHP stuff, sure. But the acknowledgement that PHP and Laravel have a ceiling for how far you can scale them is an important thing to understand. So there's a balance here for sure. But yeah, I don't like the nail clipper thing because modern tech, like modern Next.js stack stuff, can do everything you can do in Laravel PHP, but it also can scale significantly further. That all said, the idea of Laravel and these patterns and frameworks and solutions being thrown onto serverless environments does help ease a lot of this stuff. And I saw the comment in chat, Facebook scaled PHP. No, Facebook scaled Hack, which is their alternative to PHP built on top of it, which is a beautiful fucking mess. And yes, if you invent your own language on top of PHP, sure, you can make it scale.
See, PHP is a tool that was created for developers to get up and running very quickly, to create small applications, lightweight applications, but it was not intended to be used in production environments where the user base is about 50 million users active every day. So just because you think that PHP is not scalable doesn't make that opinion correct.
PHP is a lot harder to scale, and that is a correct opinion. But overall, the need for that level of scale is low enough that if you like PHP or that's the thing you want to learn, go fucking learn it. Absolutely. That's why I don't make videos. It's like, don't learn PHP or this thing is terrible. The only time I did that was with the Rust video. And I think I made a really fair point as to why too many people are rushing to go learn Rust. But that's the other side where it's like, you need this thing or your stuff will collapse. And I think that's just as, if not more so, disingenuous.
Certain tools are made for certain demands that it meets. Just because you can throw Java at every problem doesn't mean that Java is the best programming language to ever exist.
Are you kidding, man? Obviously, Java is the best programming language ever. Duh.
And also, it also pisses me off because so many of us developers start with PHP because PHP is very simple to learn and get started with web dev if you are looking to get into it. Where's the gratitude among these YouTubers? Why don't they ever admit that PHP was the first technology that they learned and that is what got them into the industry?
I'll take another L here. I try to give WordPress credit where it's due, but my early stage wasn't just PHP. It was PHP plus WordPress. And it, in one hand, it helped me a ton, but in the other, it made me hate front end so much and hate web so much that I moved all in on server side stuff. I do give PHP and specifically WordPress a ton of credit for helping me get deeper in programming way earlier than I would have otherwise. But they also did some lasting damage that scared me away from that side of things for a while. So as much as I owe them, the other side matters too. And I tend to give something like Elixir a bit more credit for my success because Elixir didn't just show me how to code, it made me fall in love with code. And even if I don't use or even really recommend Elixir right now, God, did it make me a great programmer. And I owe it so much.
And that's what made them money. Why is it always that when YouTubers switch their technologies to a better one, quotes better one, they always bash the previous technology that they were working on?
I like to think I don't do that too much. But like, all very fair points. And like, I'm even rethinking some of the ways I do things, even though it's very clear I am not the target of this video. I'm one of the few tech YouTubers that didn't get hit with any of the screenshots being snuck in here. I am very thankful that we're as aligned as we are. But even then, I'm finding things I want to be more careful of as we go through. And gratitude is absolutely something I should be going out of my way to do. Actually, I did do this well. The jQuery 4 video is absolutely me doing this. Cool. I feel better.
See, even today I work on PHP and I will never say such a thing to PHP because I owe PHP. I think I owe Taylor Otwell a lot of money because I made a lot of money from Laravel applications. So I will never say such a thing because it demotivates people from learning PHP. And just because it's the cool thing to do doesn't mean that I will join them. Then the next trend that these YouTubers have is the regret videos. And if you search on YouTube, there are so many videos that is titled things that I regret.
Yep. If I could start over. If you guys know I'm kind of fallen off or desperate for views. If you ever see a t3.gg, if I could start from scratch, how would I learn to code? So I want you guys to see how many of these there are. I will admit, this Jason Goodison one, I should have watched the video. This is one of my favorite thumbnails ever. This thumbnail makes it into like presentations on how to do good YouTube thumbnails because it's so jarring and eye-catching. Speaking of eyes, his fucking bright blue eyes, it works well. But that's like 4.5 million views, 500,000 views, 1.8 million views, 6.4 million views, 400,000 views, 800,000 views, 4.7 million views, 1.2 million views. I won't say the names of any of these people, but there was two of them in there that I am 100% confident don't know jack fucking shit about code or how to get a job that got millions of views. To be clear, that's not Jason. Jason knows his shit. But a lot of the others in here that I personally met with and chatted with are so fucking clueless. It's embarrassing that they make content about this stuff. And they are absolutely misleading people because the only reason they do YouTube is because they failed too many job interviews and couldn't take the ego hit. And those people are giving advice on how they would start over. They should have started over because they fucking failed. And now they're selling you their failures. And it's disgusting.
I didn't learn when I was starting software engineering, or things that I wish that I knew before I started learning software engineering.
Oh, Big Box made it in, and I did it. Holy shit, I didn't even see Big Box made it into there.
And these videos often convey this message to the viewer that software engineering is just a race to get to a certain point. And let me tell you the reality, it's not. Software development is a journey that you go through. We often start something having no idea how everything works in that environment. We figure things out midway, and we create a certain set of rules around ourselves to keep our journey ongoing. That is exactly how software engineering works. And that is the message that is conveyed to the user, that if the YouTuber you are watching is regretting some things that they didn't do in their lives, then the viewer shouldn't get to regret those things either.
I try to emphasize this point so often. You have to let people screw up. This is my whole safety nets, not guardrails rant. It's part of why I'm not as big on unit testing. I think it's important for developers to make mistakes. I used to actually try my hardest to make sure every new hire caused a production outage in their first 3 weeks, just to get it fucking over with. Because once you've dealt with those hard, painful moments, you're much less scared for the next one. You're going to do much better. If you spend your whole career trying to avoid failure, you're never going to find real success. Because your success is dependent on how accepting you are and prepared you are to learn from those constant failures. That's what makes developers great. That's why I love this field, because more than possibly any other field in the history of ever, you can fuck up in software and then bounce back totally fine. It's one of the best fields ever to make mistakes. I come from skateboarding, and while most of the time a mistake is fine, you just like scrape your leg a little bit, sometimes a mistake can break a bone or permanently paralyze you. Making mistakes as a skateboarder is terrifying. Making mistakes as a doctor, as somebody just said in chat, is also terrifying. You might hurt or kill somebody if you fuck up. In software, yes, there are roles in software where you can kill people. They're so rare that there are YouTube videos about the like 3 instances ever that this happened. There's a lot of those videos and they're really good. Check out the one by Low Level Learning and the bug with the X-ray machines. It's crazy stuff. The point is very specific though. We can fail and we should fail, and we shouldn't be trying to steer people away from failure. We should be trying to steer them towards learning more and finding success through those failures. And the more you're prepared to fail, the better off you'll be, generally speaking. Even when I'm like running a team, some random engineer might have a proposal for a solution to a problem that I know doesn't work. And I'll just look at it and be like, that's so stupid. Why are you building it that way? I could block them, I could push them the right way, or I can do the thing I try to do more often than not now. Maybe I'll leave some of my concerns, but I let them go do it because they have to learn those lessons too. And me telling them might help them do it a little bit faster, but it won't internalize the lesson anywhere near as strongly. And if I want them to help other people going forward more, I need them to go do that and go through both the failure and the success without me.
And they should just basically buy the thing that the YouTuber is selling. This is very sinister approach to marketing. And when these tactics don't work for these YouTubers, they employ another tactic. It's called scare marketing. So they use layoffs, they use AI, they use ChatGPT, they use Devin as a tool to scare you into buying their courses. Take a look at this YouTuber. So if you have watched this video, this YouTuber is basically saying to his audience that Devin will replace a certain kind of developers. And if you want to be the kind of developers that Devin can't replace, then very conveniently, he places a banner at the bottom of his video.
Such an important call out. I personally try to avoid calling out individuals quite to this level, but I will fully co-sign all of his call outs here. The things you learn from me aren't going to make you any more or less prepared for the AI takeover. If it does happen, it happens. I'm not going to pretend I have some magic solution to it. I'm just going to do the shit I love and talk about it. And I think the best YouTubers are the ones who do this that way, who speak from their chest and talk about the things they care about. They aren't trying to scare you into buying something. And again, Sid's just killing it here.
So you are marketed this course of a fake pretense that Devin will replace you. Also, I covered a video on why Devin won't replace you. The link should be up here or somewhere. I think here it should appear. Anyway, And the other thing about this regret videos is I see a lack of gratitude among these developers. See, 7 years of software development, the journey that I went through, you won't go through it. It's very unique to myself. And I often get asked that if I could change something in my journey, what would it be? And I always say that there is nothing that I would change.
This is another one of those things where I was like, oh shit, someone else gets it. Because I fully feel this. I cannot think a thing that I would honestly go back and change in my career. The one thing was that I knew when I should have quit Twitch, and I stuck it out for one additional year. I'd give myself a deadline of I'll quit at this point if these goals aren't met. And when they weren't met, I decided to team transfer instead of quitting. And I ended up spending 10 months on a team I fucking hated before I left. I could have avoided all that if I held myself to my original deadline. Would have been nice if I did that. But I don't think I would have the same important lesson of when I set those deadlines, I have to fucking commit. Because the better lesson I learned there was the lack of commitment made me regret that. So that regret is now a lesson that prevents further regret. So do I actually regret that original thing? Fun catch 22. Anyways, fully agree here.
If I had to start over, I would do it exactly the way that it happened for me in my journey, because it makes me the person I am today. And these YouTubers saying that they regret not learning things, they regret not knowing things, is a bad message to software developers, juniors basically, where they are running around in a frenzy, trying to learn everything that is just possible to them. See, there are certain things that are available in the market that even I won't learn in my career. Let's say Ruby on Rails. This is something that I will probably never learn because I know Laravel and I know Node.js, Express.js basically. So my progression is going towards TypeScript. But I won't create a video saying that I regret not learning Ruby on Rails. Or for example, if you watch my previous videos, you will see this green wall, which I use as the background in my videos. I will never create a video titled that I regret my previous setup and now I like my new setup, the new background that I'm using now.
I do kind of love his background right now. I'm not going to lie. It gives me imposter syndrome with the whole giant setup behind me, the all expensive lights. The fact this room went up 13 degrees Fahrenheit from 70 to 83 since I started recording today. Disgusting. But yeah, he's doing it right, doing it outside on the handheld mic.
Software development is a journey. You know some things when you start this journey, you find out things midway, and you create these rules around yourselves to keep the journey ongoing. And the final thing that I would like to say to you is that YouTubers don't know what they're saying. Nobody knows.
Don't listen to him. He's lying. I know everything I'm saying. I only speak truth and fact. No fiction here whatsoever. I have never been wrong or lied ever in my life at any point. Definitely not here right now.
This is what they're doing. Everything is just speculation. Everything is just opinion. Influencers like Neeraj Walia or Code with Harry or Tech with Tim or Tiff in Tech are just running around spreading their opinions like it's a fact and basically moving their audience in a way that they want. I'm not going to reject the fact that there are good YouTubers out there. The number one YouTuber that I like is the Prime Time. I love this.
Do you know how insulted I was at this moment? That channel only exists because of me, motherfucker. I should have gotten at least an honorary mention.
This guy, he speaks a little too much sense, and I think this is the kind of YouTuber that we should follow. And also, the Prime Time loves India, and India loves you as well, my guy. So keep doing what you're doing.
I love India too. Mean.
And another YouTuber that I highly respect is a healthy programmer, because this guy was one of the first few people who pointed out the fact that AI is used as a tool for educational institutions to sell courses. So anyway, but at the end of the day, if you want to buy a course, if you like your favorite influencer that much, go for it, I guess. But be careful, because you are sold the fact that you will land your dream job. And I'm just saying that that might not be the case. So be careful, pay attention, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.
Once again, phenomenal video. Minus the fact that Prime got the shout out and not me. I'll take that one L, because this was awesome. And if anybody watched this and doesn't go and subscribe to Sid, I'm disappointed. This was a great video. You should go watch everything on his channel. It will be, obviously, as always, be linked in the description. I've went on enough rants about this topic. I hope you guys got something out of this. I know I did. And until next time, peace, nerds.